All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Inside Track, Equibase's weekly handicapping podcast, analyzing feature races of the week, as well as giving our wagers and selections. I'm your host, Ben Kudla, with the Equibase Company, and I'm joined today by guest analyst Corey Patton, who's the CEO and co-founder of Pramana Labs, which creates stat lines for every race at every track, every day across North America. It's so great to have you back on the show, Corey, and to hear your statistical approach to these wonderful races we'll be going over. So thank you, Corey.
Anytime, Ben, this is always a treat to do.
Absolutely. So we do have a pretty fantastic promotion going on at Equibase. This week, Equibase has announced the Race to the NHC, a free contest series for Race Lens users that you'll definitely want to take advantage of. So how it works, there's a weekly feeder contest. It begins on September 7th at horseplayers.com. The top two from each week will be qualified for the Race Lens Final 50. That'll be on February 22nd, 2025. And the top two winners on February 22nd will win a seat to the NHC 2025 in March in Vegas. So for more details, check out equibase.com/NHC for great offers on Race Lens for new and non-active customers so that everyone can get in on a chance to make it to this year's NHC. So again, that's equibase.com/NHC. So we just got a cool little promo video that we're going to show to everybody. Here we go.
I actually started using it after the first NHC I went to. I was like, oh, this is a neat little tool. I like seeing it show that my pace idea is correct. The race flow, if I'm looking for long shots, if I see a race flow, it'll help me zero in on the horses I think are going to do what I think the race is going to do. Sign some big prices, which you need in these contests.
So pretty cool contest there. Head over to equibase.com/NHC for more details. So today, fantastic show, handicapping the grade 3 $3.1 million Nashville Derby Invitational at Kentucky Downs, the $1 million Pacific Classic Stakes at Del Mar. And if we have time for a bonus race, we'll go over the grade 2 $300,000 Del Mar handicap. So let's just dive right into that grade 3 enormous purse of $3.1 million Nashville Derby Invitational. Actually, Kentucky Downs has 9 graded stakes in their 7-day meet, totaling 15 million purses, which is wild. But the Nashville Derby, it's a mile and 5/16 on the 3-turn turf course for 3-year-olds. Last year's winner was a Glafile for trainer Brian Lynch and veteran jockey Declan Cannon, winning by half length at odds of 10-1. Always good value here at Kentucky Downs, but can be some incredibly difficult handicapping. So who do you got? What are you picking, Corey?
Oh, man. Look, this is always fun when you look at Kentucky Downs because it's so unique. And I just don't, there's nothing else like it, right? And the purses are so huge that trainers spot horses just trying to get a piece of that. So you really look at, you try to separate who's got a shot to win and who's being spotted there because of the huge purses in a lot of ways. And I think this one is a wide open contest in my mind. I think there is a mix of paces in here. There's a mix of class, a mix of Europeans and Americans. It's got that funky configuration. It's just, I think, a wide open race, which is why I took a price in here. And it's rare you get a Wesley Ward horse at 20-1, but I took Navy Seal. I think it's a huge, spicy play. It's a weird looking one if you look at it from normal handicapping perspective. So, the only horse to actually have a trip over this course was Laganos, winning that maiden race last September, right? So all these other horses are going to have to face this trip the first time, which is fine. So you try to look at that and say, besides Laganos, it's kind of an even. They're all going to be new to it. I think if you look at the actual past performances on Navy Seal, his last race was that allowance optional claiming race, right? And you would think it's kind of crazy. You go from allowance optional claiming race at Saratoga, where he finished second, to then show up here in the $3 million Nashville race, right? But Wes Ward has done this, and he's done this a lot. So recently, actually, he's pretty hot with this. So in the last 60 days, he's won 2 of 3 when moving a horse from allowance optional claiming ranks to a stakes condition with a $2 ROI of $8.27 for a Wes Ward horse. I trust his ability to spot horses correctly. huge horseman, knows how to do this. So I think he must have something there. Third off the layoff, you love to see that angle. Jamie Spencer, not a ton of mounts for West Ward, not a ton of mounts at Kentucky at Downs all time, but is 1-for-4 in stakes races there. So has won it last year with Ancient Rome in the Grade 3 Mint Millions. Trainer Charlie Hills. I think if you watch the way this is going to unfold, I think Navy SEAL is improving. Will sit just off the pace, which should be kind of soft if you look at it. And, it might be White Palomino, unclear who will fall out of the gate. The Euros tend to just fall out and sit, but we'll see. Maybe one of them gets anxious. But I think it's going to then allow him to have a really good trip inside of the other pace effort. And then when that long stretch opens up, be able to kind of take off a bit. And, in that last race, when it opened up, kind of got a good run and just got nailed. And I think that might happen, and he might have more of a bottom. And if you look at the trips around the world over the last year for that horse, it'd be nice to stick around in one continent for a couple of races consecutively and might just improve. So I think he's the one coming in that might get the jump on the rest of them. And there's not if Bellum Justum is a freak, maybe that horse just sits and runs and gets a great trip. But otherwise than that, I think it's a fairly open contest. And at 20-1 in West Ward, I'm all in. And just one more hunch part about this. So if you look 4 back, he ran in a race named Patton at Dundalk. It's got to be a positive, right?
I mean, yeah, yes and no. Ran third.
For me, it is personally. So anyway, I'm taking West Ward at 20-1.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Your last name. Didn't put the dots together. I like that horse. Definitely as a price play. I love that you're picking a 21. I'll never talk you off of that, but it does worry me that Frankie Dettori, chose Bellum Justum as well. So just something.
You got to look at those, and I looked at both of those, and that was the one that I was most concerned of the rest was Bellum Justum. It's just, I think this one will have in a weaker pace condition. I think he'll have the jump on Bellum Justum myself, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not picking as high odds as you are, but I'm going with the 9-2, number 8, Carson's Run. The only horse in this race to have won a Grade 1, which I think's, a good stat. He's actually won 2 Grade 1s, that Grade 1 Summer Stakes, Woodbine going a mile on the turf last September, and most recently won that Grade 1 Saratoga Derby Invitational going a mile and 3/16 on the turf, beating Legend of Time, who we were both on about a month ago back at Saratoga on August 11th. When you watch that race, Carson's Run was dead last for majority of that race. Started to move up on the rail, approaching the final turn, had a wall of horses in front of him, swung wide, and just looked like he's going to hang in the middle of the track. Well, Legend of Time was like a length or two ahead. And Carson's Run had this big surge at the end, gaining in every stride, and won by 3/4 of the length. And I think this distance will be even better today, stretching out another 1/8 of a mile. He's won 3 or 4 starts and races at a mile and 16th or more on the turf. Christophe Clement and Joel Rosario team up in turf routes. In the last 3 years, Clement and Rosario went at 27%. 61% in the money on turf route stakes races together, 19 wins from 71 starts. And Rosario has a pretty good reputation at Kentucky Downs, which I think is incredibly important for how unique that track is. Those jockeys really need to know it well. He wins at 23% in route stakes races at KD with 6 wins from 26 starts. So 9-2 Grade 1, multiple Grade 1 winner. I'll take it all day. So
I'm not talking you off of that one. And I think your point about jockeys knowing the configuration is really important. And you mentioned Dettori jumping off my horse and jumping on Bellum Justum. He's never ridden a horse at Kentucky Downs.
Never.
I'm not sure. That might not be a good thing. So we'll see on that one. When you look at the horse coming from dead last in that last race and kind of circling around the rest of them, do you think, and it wasn't a terribly fast pace that day, do you think with this pace scenario that's setting up in this race, how do you see the fractions setting up kind of in a pace condition in here?
Probably against him a little bit. I think it'll be a little bit slower. Like you said, White Palomino will probably be on the lead, but I don't think there's going to be much competition for that top spot. But it's also Kentucky Downs. I mean, it's just different. And like today, with that 50-cent pick 5 paid $65K. So I mean, there are some poppers that come out of Kentucky Downs, but I don't know if it'll really matter too much for Carson's run if it's that slow of a pace, but I wouldn't imagine it being more than 24 for the first quarter, regardless. So.
Yeah. And it's the distance ground. And but if you look at Palomino's running line, that 114 in the last race, you think you'll see a 114 from Palomino? I mean, I think that's a little slow. So who knows? He probably will have the lead, but I think we're just kind of guessing, looking at what some of these horses and the way that they want to run in a very weird configuration. It's just hard. It's not apples to apples when you look at Kentucky Downs in my book. But I do think Palomino will likely be, if not on, very near to the front of the pack too. So we'll see. I mean, obviously Pratt jumps off of Palomino Ortiz gets on, so that may be more of that. A condition of the Shug McGahee on the outside that Pratt jumps to versus jumping off. But I don't know. So what do you think of that Shug McGahee horse on the outside?
That's an interesting horse. I kind of wrote him off a little bit. But I mean, he ran really well in that Audubon, winning by 4 1/4 lengths. Career best 103. Increasing speed figures all the way since March. In every single race, beat a Brumar twice. Laganos, kind of him and been going back and forth. I just think that 12 spot is going to be a little bit tough for him, way on the outside there, just how that track plays. But he could definitely be up there. I think the 4-1 morning line's a little bit generous on him. I don't think he should be that, but he could definitely be up there. I kind of I like Cameo Performance underneath Carson's run. That's who I liked. And kind of, how I said before, these jockeys and trainers knowing the course. Brendan Walsh and Tyler Gaffleon both won the meet last year. And together they went at a 29% clip. And they went at in stakes races together at Kentucky Downs. They went at 50%. 4 wins from 8 starts with the plus 249% ROI and a median win of $13.09.
Take note of that. And when you talk about Kentucky Downs again and trainers and jockeys and horses and all that stuff, if you look at Nomos for Pletcher and El Matador, if it draws in, those Pletcher is 0 for 7 in the last year at Kentucky Downs, and Mike Maker is 0 for 12 the last year at Kentucky Downs. So take that into your handicapping as well.
Yeah, very true. Very true. But anyway, I'm going to do a Carson's run on top of a whole bunch. I think Carson's run is gonna run really well. And I think a big price is going to come in second. You can just do $1 or $2. I think it's going to pay pretty well. So
if I had to look at it, I think maybe Seal is my price in there that will spice up the tries and the exactas. I think Bellum Justum is going to be in there as well in my mind. And so from that other spot, I think you could throw in your couple of your horses. And I do think Carson's run will run well. I think he's just up against it on a pace scenario in my mind. Yeah,
definitely. And also, I just want to throw out this little angle that I threw together today on Race Lens. The past 2 years, horses at Kentucky Downs who had their last start outside of North America win at 56%. That's hard to pass up. Last 3 years, 35%, but still, that's quite a stat. So I guess they like that unique European style turf, the hills, and who knows. But
put Bellum Justum right there in the winner's circle. Yeah,
I guess so. But anyway, so there is your grade 3, $3.1 million Derby, Nashville Derby Invitational. So next we got our Breeders' Cup winning you're in for the grade 1 Breeders' Cup Classic. We got the grade 1 $1 million Pacific Classic Stakes at Del Mar, going 1.25 miles on the dirt for 3-year-olds and up. Last year's winner was Arabian Night for trainer Bob Baffert and Flavian Pratt aboard, winning by a neck over Go Rocket Ride. In the last 7 years of the runnings of the Pacific Classic, Bob Baffert and John Sadler have won all of them. So that's kind of an interesting stat. They both have runners in this Saturday. And Adair Manor will try to beat the boys just like Beholder did back in 2015. So I know we're a little bit different on this race. So I'm interested to hear your picks.
Well, look, overall, I think we discussed this a bit off the air before we started taping, but I was not overly impressed with the field. for this year's Pacific Classic. And
Yep.
it's usually, being a West Coast guy and cutting my teeth in horse racing on the West Coast for years and years, the Pacific Classic was the big one that you look for. And, every horse you've been following all year, that was the matchup. Those were the hard knockers. Those were the lava man days, that I just used to love. And you just don't have that type of animal in this race this year. And I think it's, there's some hard knockers in here, and not to take anything away from the competition, it may not be the deepest, if you will, running of the Pacific Classic I've ever seen. And for that reason, it's unique in that it's got, the Adair Manor in here, which is the filly against the boys. It'd be very interesting to watch, but I'm going to take a stand against, and I'm going to go with what's a little bit of a price, the rail horse, Il Miracolo, sorry. And I think the interesting part about this is that there are multiples. One is getting Money Mike Smith on for this ride. Okay. Smith's on fire. He's won 3 of his last 4 stakes races in the past 2 weeks. Just won. He shipped and won in the St. Louis Derby last week with EJ Won the Cup. And he takes over the mount here. And I want to watch this last race in the Philip Iceland Stakes at Monmouth. And it's a really weird, funky race. Now, you'll see some interesting parts, because the horse that's going to end up winning is going to have Mike Smith on his back. And Paco Lopez, if you see on the outside on Il Miracolo, has really got his feet in the dashboard, trying to figure out what to do. And he went 3 wide, dropped over in the 2-path, and now he's sitting there thinking he's got this race won. Doesn't even see Mike Smith coming on the outside.
Look at that move.
Didn't even see him coming, and watch him just go right past him. And so then all of a sudden Paco says, "Oh, I better get going," and watch this horse respond. And of course, Smith got the jump on him with Subsanador and will win this race. But Il Miracolo really responded and is going to end up being double digits clear of third. And
it's like 15 1/4 lengths, I think, in front of the third place finisher.
And just keeps running and might have gotten there in the end, but then will gallop out way better than Subsanador when you watch the gallop out. And you don't have to let it run forever. Just trust me on that one. But I thought it was a crazy ride. I thought it was, Paco got kind of just surprised, thought he had that race won. And that race right there was the first off of a 3-month layoff, right? So now he's going to be a little tighter. He comes back in 2 weeks. That's weird, right? Yeah. Ships across the country in 2 weeks, comes back, gets the rider who just beat him on the back, right? And Mike Smith, who's super hot, gets the rail, which is actually post 1 is tied for the most winners at a mile or longer on dirt this year, winning at 20% at Del Mar. So there is precedent. That 122 Equibase speed figure, I don't know that that's right. It seems a little bit ridiculous, but it is a big number to post up there. And when you watch it, the last race, that horse really, really responded. So I did a little bit of research if you look at that Paco Lopez move when going from Paco to Mike Smith. And because I'm the stats guy and went into Pramana shift, only 4 times in the last 10 years has any trainer ever switched from Paco Lopez to Mike Smith. None of them have ever won that next start, but small sample size. So you don't have a whole lot of history there. Antonio Sano doesn't run a lot of horses on the West Coast, so there's not a lot of history there at all to really look at. Coming back in 14 days, going 1.25 miles. He has history actually coming back in less than a month. If you go back in March, Il Miracolo won the Ghost Zapper, turning around in less than a month, so can come back and do it. I just think he's faced some quality in the past. First Mission, a couple back, Tumbarumba, National Treasure, even in his running line, Senior Buscador, has run against some major players. And in this case, getting overlooked at 8-1 with Mike Smith on your back against a really kind of shaky field in my mind. I'm going to take a flyer on that horse being there in the lane and potentially just getting the jump on Dare Manor and having something left in the end.
I do like that horse too, especially with that Mike Smith switch. In the past 6 months, he's actually winning at 29% on dirt route graded stakes races. 14 starts with 4 wins and 10 in the money, 71%, and a plus 48% return on investment. Reason I don't like him to win, he's coming from coast to coast, all the way out from Monmouth to here in a very short amount of time, and Antonio Sano is just 1 for 18 when shipping in for a graded stakes race the past 3 years. So that's tough. He is 33% in the money. I'll give him that. But
I'll say, look, Money Mike, he's won the most Pacific Classics. Well, he's tied with the late Garrett Gomez for the most Pacific Classics since 1991, winning 4 of them. So he knows how to get it done on this course in this race.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm going all Adair Manor though. I love it. I was rooting for Torpedo Anna last week, even though I bet on Dornoch, but I think she could really do it, especially against this level of field. Incredibly fast, has 109 average speed, ranks her first in the race, won her last 3 races in a row, all graded stakes, including 2 grade 1s, and that Apple Blossom, the grade 1 Clement Hirsch, which we'll watch in a little bit. I thought it was one of her more impressive wins. I know you kind of disagree, but I think it kind of showed her versatility, that she didn't need the lead, and she could come back from being 3-4 lengths behind going into that final stretch. Trainer Bob Baffert and Juan Hernandez, obviously, the best of the best out there, won a 34% clip in graded stakes races at Del Mar in the last 3 years, 10 wins from 29 starts. In the last 10 days, they've won 3 of 4 races together. Bob Baffert wins at 46% in stakes races at Del Mar in the last year, 11 wins from 24 starts. These are all stat lines, by the way.
I'll add another one together. They're in the money 87% of the time, 27 of 31 over the last 45 days. He's got Hernandez owns the best winning percentage at Del Mar at 39% over the last 10 days. It's just ridiculous. It's an embarrassment of riches with those two. But and every right to perform well, and nothing to knock on her as far as just she's been a consistent mare. I just have to look at some of the others in this race that might just have a bit of a competition edge in my mind. And look, I'll go ahead and pile onto your selection here, because I do think she's probably the second best, or probably the best if you in the race. But I just think he's going to be up against it with some of these others. But if I had to look at it, Baffert's won. He has 2 in this race. He has Reincarnate, which we haven't even talked about. He's had 2 in the Pacific Classic 9 times previously. He does this a lot. He's got the most Pacific Classic wins of any trainer since 91, with 7 of them. He's 7 of 31, 23%. She gets a weight break. 2 for 3 of the career over the track. I love this one. I looked this up with the pedigree. At 5, you probably don't need a pedigree, but even on the Del Mar track, Uncle Mo going around ground on the dirt at Del Mar, 36% winners all time, 16 of 44 with a positive $2 ROI. That's big.
That's really big.
Yeah, they just win going around at Del Mar, and I think the only knock I can really come up with is what I saw in that last race, which is, it's the reason that we do horse racing handicapping, is we can look at the exact same film and have 2 different reactions. So if you want to
go ahead, share this one.
Let's look at it, and I'll let you kind of talk about what you saw, and then I can kind of talk about what I saw.
All right, let's do it. And this is obviously not the spot that she wanted to be in, on the rail, in some trouble, on a couple of horses. Kind of going back a little bit.
You're going to start working on it right there.
Yeah,
say, okay, we're losing
hard. And when Silla's up there, barely even moving his hands, and
keeps riding, starts riding again. Now really scrubbing.
Now he's got to go on the outside.
Yeah,
be about 3-4 wide here.
And at 3 to 5 in this race against this class,
he's already hitting her at the very top. I mean, it looks like it's over, and then. Yeah. Here she comes.
Well, a couple of taps, but then watch Silla just kind of going up and down here after and whipping her, and really just kind of coming to a stop, shortening stride. And Adair Manor just looks, I don't know, in my mind, it looks visually more impressive than it actually was, because I think Silla was just going up and down and was a done horse at that point in time in my mind. But, again, kudos to her. She continues to get jobs done.
Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, It is cool, though, in handicap. We can both look at the same race and kind of have different viewpoints. That's what this podcast is all about. So I love it. What do you think about that Dr. Venkman horse? I thought it was interesting.
Yeah. Look, right now, if it's not Baffert, it's Glatt at Del Mar. We're just winning everything, right? And, Glatt's 2 for 3 in the last 45 days in stakes races at Del Mar. Venkman, 3 for 3 over the surface. Here's my knock. Obviously lightly raced, but beat that O'Neill horse Katona in his last. Katona ran for maiden claiming 40 last year. All right. and only Stokes race was Pleasanton, right? And had a nice performance at Pleasanton, but it's just not a huge competition there. It galloped out just okay. Dr. Ventman did. Not sure he wants this full distance. I was a little bit concerned about that. And look, who am I to tell Mark Glatt where to spot his horses right now because he's on fire? But I just think in this race, Il Miracolo has faced better class. Reincarnate's faced better class. Adair Manor's faced better class. So I think, a horse on the improve, and maybe he can take a huge step forward and, compete or get the job done. But I'm just going to look at a class advantage for the other horses against Ventman.
Okay, I like it. Consistent though. I mean, in 4 out of 5 races in his life, he's ran over 100 Equibase speed figure. He's an interesting horse, and I'm glad you brought that Katona thing up because who was really in that Grade 2 San Diego handicap? But regardless, I mean, he's 3 for 3 at Del Mar. It's hard to knack, So.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're not going to tell Mark Glatt where to put his horses. I keep saying they're all running well, right? And the horse, the 4 consecutive triple figure Equibase speed figures, that's very good. That's impressive. I want to see him run a Pacific Classic level competition. The horse on the rail that I love was in the Pegasus. It's faced National Treasure and Senior Buscador, and Dr. Vickman has faced Katona. So I just, until it's proven different, I'm just not sure that there's a class there that I can hang my hat on.
No, fair enough. I do like that second route though. He's been running sprints his entire life, and Glatt's winning at 27% in the last 3 years with horses in their second route. So
okay, good
something
stuff.
else.
Who else do you like in here?
And not a whole lot. I think I'm just gonna kind of single Dare Manor, and it's hard to like anybody in here, to be honest with you. I actually found this race to be harder to handicap than it was at Kentucky Downs, just because all these percentages are just so low on race lines and stat lines, besides a handful. But Reincarnate was interesting. 2 for 2 in the exact at Del Mar. I don't know, to lose last time out in a Grade 3 by 10 1/4 lengths, getting second. I mean, that's hard to go past, especially at, 2 to 5, I think. And also Juan Hernandez jumping off. So that's another reason he's picking Adair Manor, rightfully so. He's been on her his whole life, but her whole life, besides the first couple of races with Mike Smith. But
for sure. So when you look at this race, some of them, again, it's weird because I liked this angle with Wes Ward in the Nashville, but then you look at the Sadler horse, that full Serrano, stepping up from allowance optional claiming to stakes race. I do not like it with John Sadler on this horse. Sadler knows what he's doing. He wins in bunches. He wins Pacific Classics. Again, who am I to tell him what to do with these horses? But over the past 2 years, Sadler is 0 for 10 when previously starting a horse in a dirt optional allowance claiming race, then running it in a dirt stakes race. So out of the money 8 of those 10 times. And it's a big step up for this horse. And I know he had that massive workout on the 24th. He said even in the news that's what encouraged him to put him into this race. But, it's very odd. And I'm going to give you how odd was it. That 111.4 6-panel drill is the fastest 6 furlong final workout by a Sadler Del Mar entrant since 2012, when Switch went 111 flat. Interestingly enough, if you look at all those, of the 20 Sadler 6-panel final workouts for Del Mar runners at 111.4 or faster, only 2 of them won the race out of that workout. So doesn't always mean they're ready to go. Sometimes you can just take the starch out of them with that. But I'm not looking at that workout as anything other than history's not there with that. So I'm tossing full Serrano. And as we mentioned, the other one, I think, obviously I'm tossing, there's a couple of them. Katona, again, broke maiden for 40 last year. Little context on that. Only 2 horses have won the Pacific Classic after running in a maiden claiming race at all in their career. Lava Man in 06 and Maximum Security in 2020. So not a lot of past history that says if you break maiden at maiden claiming level, you're Pacific Classic material.
It's true. One thing I do got to say, just in the history books, what was this? What's his name? Won the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien in 2020. He was claimed for 40,000 back at Oaklawn. The Peter Miller. What was his name? Gosh, why am I blanking on that right now? But anyway, he was the.
We'll look it up, and you're going to get mail, Ben.
Probably, yeah. But anyway, he was claimed for 40,000 and ran for 50,000 next time out at Churchill, and then won the Grade 2 Pat O'Brien, and then got second in that Breeders' Cup Sprint. So for full Serrano's, kind of going for him. Stranger things have happened at Del Mar, so you never know. That's what makes horse racing fun.
For sure.
But anyway, that is all the time we have for you today. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. And please go ahead and check out equibase.com/NHC for more details on the race to the NHC contest. And we'll see you next week. Thank you so much for joining, Corey.
My pleasure.